You are now tuned in to the Project 365 experience.
Ladies and gentlemen, it is with great pleasure that I get to welcome my good friend, Adeel Sahibzada. How are you doing, Adeel? Coach Adeel.
I'm good, my brother. I'm good, man. How are you?
Good, good, good. I gotta start off. I gotta give a quick Coach Adeel story. So I'm from Montreal, Quebec. And it's Montreal is behind just in terms of just the platform that we give our kids, right? It's getting better. We always had talent, but a lot of times to get exposure, you have to leave Montreal to either go to Ontario or go to the US. And to get recruited is tough. Like, you rarely see coaches in gyms. Ladies and gentlemen, when I tell you guys that this was the first NCAA coach that I got the opportunity to talk to, it showed how, one, you were paying attention to where the talent was, and you were doing your job. But every year I saw you at that tournament, at the Du Rocher tournament. Out of Montreal. So tell me, what was it that made you be like, yo, I have to go recruit the kids from Montreal?
I think for me, my story with Montreal starts way back, way before, before I got into the NCAA. I was I was a high school coach. I was a prep basketball coach. I was an AAU coach, and we would get a flood. We'd have floodgates of talent coming from Montreal, and I always knew there was a lot of talent up there.
I just got to say this for the listeners, because they don't really understand. So when I met you, you were working at Simon Fraser University, which is the only D2 school in Canada. Actually, the only NCAA school in Canada, actually. Yeah. Sorry, but yeah, carry on. Sorry, I just had to say that for the listener.
Yeah. So I was coaching at, obviously, AAU, and I was also coaching at the Toronto Basketball Academy. So a lot of our talent, shout out. A lot of our talent came from Quebec, came from Montreal, came from Gatineau. Some of our best players to ever don that jersey are from Quebec. So for me, I would come up to Montreal just to be able to, either compete against Thetford, compete against Coach Igor, compete against Vanier, compete against Champlain. These are schools that have a history. And even as an athlete, I would come up there to test my skills against those guys. And, even when we were the hottest, team in the city, in the country, the Eastern Prep, we would come to Montreal to get a humble. So it was like, man, there's a lot of talent out there, and we just got to be out there. So for me, it was just natural. When I went to the NCAA, when I coached junior college basketball, when I coached D1, I made it a point to come to Montreal at least 2-3 times a year. So, yeah.
So you go from coaching prep, and then you end up at junior college. And then afterwards, like, you trickle down. And then so at that point where I met you, you was at SFU. How did you end up there?
I had just finished. So I went to SFU after I finished a year at Chicago State. And then I was there at SFU for about 3 years. The first year I got there kind of during COVID. There wasn't any real opportunity there. So I said, you know what, I'm going to come up. I'm going to figure it out. And then as soon as COVID ended, I got promoted to, the first full-time, I mean, not the first, but promoted as a full-time assistant, and then the lead assistant, and so on and so forth. So it's good. I mean, I kind of paid my dues in a lot of different places in a lot of different areas, but yeah.
So what, in terms of recruiting, right? Because even for me, like, as a Canadian, like, there's a lot of pride in things that are Canadian, right? Being the only, when it's the only Canadian school and whatnot. Like, just talk to me, just not necessarily about that situation specific, but why, as Canadians, do we kind of like feel attached to certain things that are like Canadian? We want to prove to people that they are the best, or they are, or that we could compete. You know what I mean?
100%. I think it comes from this desire to, and you could kind of see it in the World Championship games. You could kind of see it on a bigger stage that we have like this grittiness about us because, you know, we're seen as America's pushovers.
Yep.
That
Yep.
they can come and beat us at any point.
Yeah. Or that we're soft. And
100%,
we
right?
heard it all.
100%. So for me, there was like a level of personal pride and honor to be able to represent, the only Canadian team that competes in the NCAA. So anytime we're going to the States, it's really us against the US. It didn't matter the opponent. It's Canada the worst versus the US. During my time there, I even put an emphasis on trying to make it a Canadian team. So right now, I don't think we have any, non-Canadian on the roster. It's a Canadian team, and competing against American teams. So yeah, so I mean, the first year I got there, we had like 5, non-Canadians. Now we just have we're all in with the Canadians. So yeah, it's been beautiful, and I think the kids represent the red leaf. Means a little bit more to us than it would to an ordinary Canadian.
Absolutely.
Because we've repped the leaf. We've really repped the leaf, right? So yeah.
Absolutely. So now you're on to a new step. How did that experience? Actually, first of all, let's backtrack. What was it like when you made the decision to attack a new chapter in your life? Because we all have to go through that, right? And and the reason why I wanna dive into that specific point is because as players, like that transition when when you play basketball for so long and it becomes like, yo, this is where I'm at, and then you kind of decide that, oh, it's time to maybe I might have to stop playing. Well, sometimes as coaches, like a lot of times we try to force situation, but a lot of times, like, how do you get to the mind where like, okay, maybe I have to start looking at doing something else, or maybe something else? Is it just priorities? Is it just maybe something else shifts? Like, I just want you to kind of take us through that.
No, I appreciate you asking that. It was a big decision. I mean, I think, anyone that knows me knows how much I love this game. I'm never walking away from it. I'm still in the game just as much as I ever was. But for me, I'm a little bit more process oriented rather than goal oriented. So for me, it is more about what is the next best opportunity for myself and for everyone involved. Leaving SFE was probably the toughest decision I've ever made. I love Coach Henson. I know he's still, feeling a type of way, but we still talk. I actually went up there a couple of weeks ago, spent some time with him, spent some time with the team. The relationship is really strong, and I'm still, heavily involved, in terms of as an outsider, as much as an outsider can be involved. So, leaving that place, which I called home for the last 3 years, and if anyone ever asks me about that experience, I always say that's the best experience I've ever had in my life.
Yeah.
Right. Every weekend I was going on a hike. I literally embraced new challenges and new way of thinking and a new lifestyle. So for me to just sort of walk away from all of that, was just a really difficult decision. But, it goes back to basketball. I want to coach at the highest level. I have some personal goals that I wanted to accomplish. So I felt that this was the time to kind of walk away and try to see if I could secure residency here. To open up the doors for way more opportunities. And more recently, that was approved, and I just recently accepted an opportunity as an athletic director at a private high school here in Texas. So, now I'm in the heat. I can't be complaining about the cold or the rain, none of that. So, I can go out and just the sun. They call it the sunshine state. So,
yeah. No, that's amazing. So the process. Not a lot of people talk about this, but just the process of let's say a Canadian wanting to go to the US as a player, or just a lot of times we think like the grass is greener, but like everybody's goal, like not everybody's goal, but like a lot of people's goals is just like go to the US, right? Talk about that process. Like, what is the process like for a player to get it? And what is the process like if, let's say, I would like to go work in the US? We're getting real technical here on the podcast 365, man. We're getting
I'm here,
real
man.
technical.
I'm here for
Yeah.
that energy, man.
Yeah.
As a player, I think, you got to really stand out. You got to be an outlier, right? I mean, scholarships are not for everybody. They're only for the outliers. And, you know, there's obviously, you have some physical gifts that, you just can't negate, but there's also a story behind every player that really makes it. There's a driving force behind why you compete the way you do, right? There's a reason. You have to have a reason as to why this game means something to you, and you express it in the art, in the way you play, in the way you change direction, the way you cross over, in the way you shoot, in the way you approach the game itself, in the way you warm up, in the way you take care of your books, your nutrition, right? You have this dedicated focus that you know is not, you're not motivated. You're more disciplined than you are motivated. You are more consistent than you are inspired, right? So these are kind of like, you know the things that would make it possible for a Canadian kid to experience an opportunity south of the border. I mean, a Canadian kid is worth almost $60,000 per year, right? That's an international scholarship, right? So they're not throwing an international scholarship out for anyone that doesn't play hard, doesn't work hard, can't take care of their classroom, and more importantly, especially in today's day and age, isn't coachable, right? So this has been our blessing and our curse, right? We've been very coachable, but sometimes we've also been very lackadaisical. We've taken these opportunities for granted, right? There's a pretty big investment behind all of this,
Yeah.
right? Um, but I think we are in a very exciting time as Canadians, because you have almost 150 student athletes competing in the NCAA year in, year out. I mean, this has never been like this before, you know. So talent's being identified, and it's coming from all corners of the city, all corners of the country,
Yeah.
right? So if you're good enough, they'll find you. And access to opportunities, I mean, it was never like this. You have two, high performance, basketball leagues, right? You have almost 30 teams between them. So you got to be the cream of the crop in that league, in those leagues,
Right.
right? And then, everybody's watching. The stage is set.
Yeah. No,
So
it's and then as you, let's say, applying, how was that, like, as applying for residency? How was that, like, just the process of it?
So, I mean, I think there's a number of different ways to do it. I think a guy like Coach Manny, who was at Orangeville,
Yep.
Circus, as you,
Yep. Yep.
he played
Western
Michigan
Michigan.
State.
Yep.
Yeah, now he's at Western Michigan. But
Mm-hmm.
he decided that, what, I'm going to take an opportunity with, at Michigan State. I'm going to be a graduate assistant for a year or two, and then see what happens. And to his credit, he grinded. Coaches say nothing but great things about him. And when the opportunity opened up at Western Michigan, they hired one of the assistants at Michigan State. And Coach Manny was at the top of the list. And they said, you know what, we're going to take this guy with us. We know what he's worth. We know the value that he brings. And he's really well connected with the Canadian kids. He's smart, intelligent, pretty charismatic. So, yeah, we gotta bring this guy on board, because in the US, if you graduate from here, you get sort of what's called the OTP. It's like this opportunity that allows you to work in your field that you graduated in for a year right away. And then the university can decide if they want to extend that. So it's a great pathway for residency, especially
Yeah.
for coaches.
Yeah. I
Um,
didn't know that. That's interesting.
yeah.
So it's like when you graduate, because a lot of people don't really understand the process, and like it's like, you think like, oh, I could just go to the US, but like there's so many little factors that you got to pay
Mhm.
attention to.
Exactly.
So so what you said about, like, they're investing in the Canadian kids, 60,000, that would be something that, one, it's seen as international scholarship. But the
Mhm.
next thing also is that what people have to understand is that is also a student visa that you
Mhm.
get, right?
F1.
I-20, if I'm not
No, F1.
F1.
I-20 is I guess,
F1.
student exchange visitor program, sort of, basically I-20 is the form that goes to Department of Homeland Security,
Hmm.
and then they issue the F1 student visa.
Got you. Okay. So
Yeah.
a lot of times with that, what ends up happening is students are not this is why we're here. I'm learning along the way. Okay. So when you get that student visa, you're not allowed to work in the US. You could just go to school. If that
No,
makes
so
sense in
you
the
can,
US.
you can work at the same school that you're at. You can work up to 20 hours, and
Mhm.
they can pay you whatever wage it is that is agreed upon between you and the university. So
Mm.
whoever
But I can't
basically
go work
issues.
at, let's say, a Chick-fil-A or
No,
a
you can't.
I
Yeah,
like
you can't.
Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, Chick-fil-A is good.
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, but yeah, keep going. Sorry.
Yeah, so I mean, that's one of the ways. Coming in as a graduate assistant and sort of working your way through the process. Another way is, if you have some extraordinary achievement, extraordinary, um, you're considered an extraordinary person based on your achievement, based on your work, based on your education, and so on and so forth, then you can qualify under a different category. That's something that Coach Dave Smart, Coach Tony McIntyre, myself, we qualified under. It's called an extraordinary ability, work authorization. It's called the O1 visa. So, yeah, so that's a merit-based visa. So you can get that.
Hmm.
And then you have H-1B, which is sort of like a lottery visa. So now most universities have, you could say, sort of like an insider access to these lottery visas. Um, they have more preferential. They get more preferential treatment when they sort of, uh, want to hire, a Canadian.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So yeah, so I mean, those are the three main ways most Canadians are coming in here and securing opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Um, yeah, I mean, that's really
Yeah.
it.
No, it's a because it's an interesting prospect because I just don't think like a lot of people understand that there's some things to it. You can't just go, oh, I'm going to the States. You can't just do that. There's so many like little things that you almost have to pay attention to. So
Exactly.
talk to me about you get this job as an athletic director. When did you ever think about becoming an athletic director? Did it just happen? Because I'm telling you, in this basketball thing, when you identify as a player, you want to be a player until you're 50, 60. When you're a coach, I'm coaching till the rest of my life. But athletic director, when did that cross your mind? Or did it ever?
I mean, it's again about the process, right? What is the best thing in this very moment, right? I'm not leaving basketball ever. I mean, as an athletic director, I have an access to build a program bigger than TBA ever was, and TBA was a massive success in Canada. I mean, the amount of success that came out of it, every single kid that ever played at TBA got a scholarship. Every single coach that ever coached at TBA is coaching Division One, Division Two, U Sports, CCAA, coaching at every single level, right? So the opportunity that came out of that program and it was great. But as an athletic director, I have way more access. I can do way more. I can, improve the operation even more, right? I have more of an insight. So for me, it's just can I do something? Can I sidestep a little bit? Can I do something a little bit different that might bring more value to the communities that we serve, and even to myself as an individual, right? I mean, yeah, I'm gonna be a college basketball coach again. I'm gonna be back. It's not that hard.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get in, once you're able to showcase your value, there's always demand for people to get back in.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but what if I could be athletic director and you know at the college level, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not as if I'm leaving the industry. I'm still in an admin position in athletics, right? And I think for me, it's just we in today's day and age, we have to become a little bit more indispensable in a more dispensable reality.
Right.
The reality in front of us isn't as kind, right? There's gonna be a day when you know our families, our sons and daughters are gonna expect food on the table, right? So we got to be versatile and dynamic enough to be able to do different things at different times. So for me, it's just an opportunity to you know um, add to my bag, skill set, as they say, and just continually improve myself. I'm on a path of self improvement in a lot of different facets. I can't be so stubborn and fixated on just one direction, right? So
Mhm.
it's got to be, you know, trying to see alternative pathways.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's also like, a good friend of mine, that I've been talking to just about like just about like careers and all that kind of stuff.
yeah,
Well, what she said was that it's like a lateral step. A lot of times you got to take that lateral to sometimes like move up and whatnot. So okay, so now which high school, which private high school are you at now?
there's a private high school in Garland, Texas, called Brighter Horizons Academy. So
Okay, so now at Broader Horizon Academy, like what's the vision? You come in here, you got this opportunity to put in a vision. What's the vision?
yeah, now
Because
I
you're not
can't
just in
just
charge of basketball now, right? You're in charge of
charge
like,
every sport.
yeah.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean,
And talk to me about like, sorry, I'm cutting you off. Talk to me about like all the different sports that you have and like all et cetera, et cetera.
I would say our three main sports or four main sports are cross country or track, basketball, soccer, and volleyball. Texas is big on football, so they want me to add football this year. So I'm going to add football.
Ooh.
Yeah, you can't have a high school without a football team. So we're going to add football, and then just kind of improve the operation. Bring more support to the coaches, find the right people in place to be able to take advantage of different things to improve. I mean, the student is at the middle. The student athlete is in the middle, and we're all around that student athlete, complementing, you know, sort of, you know, the direction that the school envisions. So, I mean, I try to find the right coaches that can connect with these kids. I try to find the right opportunities that can improve their opportunity. And I mean a lot of teachers and a lot of admin people don't really get it, but sports is your number one way of behavior and classroom management program
Absolutely.
in a school,
Mhm.
right? It checks behavior for a lot of kids, um, and it's an equalizer in life, right? Kids, it provides sort of an incentive to go to school. It was like that for me,
Mhm.
right? So I put myself in the position of a lot of these kids. I crave this. So can we improve this operation? Can we make it enjoyable? Can we build school spirit from this? Can we grow school enrollment from this? Right? There's so much that comes from this that just adds more value to the school community at large, right? So I'm just excited to be a part of that chapter to see, if we can do that, if we can, go in the same direction. And, they have a lot of high hopes for me. So
Mhm.
I'm hoping I'm able to deliver, right? So
Yeah, for sure. What are characteristics when you're going through the hiring process of coaches for the different sports, right? And that's one of the things that I believe in. And it's like a lot of people think that it comes with the accolades that you have in the sports and all, whether this coach has won. Obviously winning is important, but there's a relatability aspect that I think are like in the character of the coach, that if he's able to understand and relate to different players that they have, and understand that it's not a one size fits all kind of model.
yeah,
I
you got
think
to be able
that's
to,
yeah.
you got to be a relational person, and you got to be able to differentiate your instruction, right? You got to be able to connect with kids that come from different walks of life, that have different learning styles. So your acumen as a coach has to be a lot more dynamic and a lot more um, adaptive. It must adapt to the kids. The kids shouldn't adapt to you. Best coaches, they're able to read the room, they're able to read the kids, and they're able to demonstrate beyond a reasonable doubt that, because kids really don't care about how much we know, they want to know how much we care. So the best of us are those that are able to demonstrate that. that
Mm-hmm.
we are here for more than just the sport. We're here because this is bigger than the sport.
Mm-hmm.
We care about your success as individuals beyond just the sport.
Mm-hmm.
We want to be able to improve your life outcomes.
Yeah.
That's what should be the metrics for every single coach coaching in this game. It shouldn't be about anything else. It shouldn't be about, I got to win some games. Winning
Yeah.
is not the best metrics ever. You
Yeah.
can never have winning as a metric,
Mm-hmm.
right? That can't be a guiding, you know, uh,
Right.
you know.
Yeah, like the guiding force to what we do. It's funny that you're saying that because like even for me, like I when people talk about winning, right? Winning and losing. For me, I kind of see them as those are two results, but it's like I kind of feel like if you just go and really take care of your players, help
Mhm,
them get better, have a winning approach, I feel like winning is almost like a byproduct of what we do. And it
100%.
and it shouldn't be like the okay, well, guys, go out there, we got to win or whatnot.
Mhm,
So I don't
100%.
even, yeah. So I don't. So, um, that's why I was curious to ask because like now you're in the position, now you're hiring people, you're hiring these coaches that are going to be basically almost like the second parental figure to some of these kids.
Yeah.
Like it's like, what's the characteristic that besides relatability? Is there something else that you're looking for?
Yeah, so I mean, when we were at TBA, because it was a high performance high school basketball program, our metrics was never to count wins and losses. It was always about counting scholarships and opportunities for coaches.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the metric. That was our guiding force. So every coach, every person was judged by that metric, right? So I mean, that's why we were able to be so successful. People were too fixated on beating us. We didn't care. You could have the win, but we wanted to win the year. We wanted to win the life. Win long term. We wanted to win life, right? And the same thing is here. I don't care about wins and losses. I'll never care about wins and losses here. I mean, it's a different situation. It's not a high performance program just yet. We want to get to that point. Right now, it's about attendance and participation. We want to
Mm-hmm.
improve participation and we want to improve attendance. Right? That's it. If coaches can, improve participation and retain talent and improve attendance, that's it. They've done their job for now, right? Because, half of life is showing up. The other half is doing the
Mm,
work. So
yeah.
for coaches, it's about bringing them here, and for players, it's about showing up and doing work, like bringing an effort. So two things that you can control: you can control your effort, and you can control your attitude, and you can control your presence, right? So what is it? What are the controllables, right? And that's what the process is all about. It's less about the goals. It's less about the outcomes. It's more about um, the behaviors that we can control.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's it.
You go from like it's so funny how life works. You go from like 6 months ago, you are with college
Like
players,
3 months
mature
ago, actually.
3 months ago.
Less than three. Yeah.
No, man. You go with college players who are trying to figure things out, trying to getting to that point where they're self-sufficient, they can work on themselves, da da da, to now going to high schoolers that in some situations maybe not as mature, may need more help, may need more guidance, more consequences, et cetera, et cetera. How are you adjusting to that mindset shift? And how different are both of them?
Yeah. No, it's very difficult. It was very, very difficult, especially the beginning. I'm
Mm.
kind of, catching up on it. I mean, before, imagine you just have to worry about 12 athletes, right? 12 kids and one team. Now you're worrying about 20 teams, 20 coaches, and more than 200 athletes, right? So it's different, you know. I mean, but the potential for impact is a little bit greater, right?
Mm.
The access is greater. The learning opportunity is also huge. I mean, I've never done this before. Um, and then just being able to network on the side is also great. I mean, now, I have some good relationships. I'm, hanging out with the Mavs quite often and, going to all the college practices and stuff. So I'm here, I'm present, right? So I mean that those things are extremely important. And now I can, I'm celebrating, Yusuf, who's now at Arizona State, Dalmar, who's now at
Shout out
Maryland
Yusuf.
University,
Great
right?
guy, man. Yeah.
So now I get to watch them play, and a lot of my former players that are still in the game. So now it's just different. It's just, I get to sit back and watch, right? I'm more heavily involved, but in a different way.
Right.
So
What
I'm thankful for the opportunities that have come through from this passion.
Absolutely. And so what is the if you look back starting from now. By the way, thank you so much for your time. This was great. My last question for you is this one.
Yeah.
When you're going to look back at your year 6 months from now, what do you hope to have accomplished?
Ah, man. I think when I look back from 6 months from today, I'm going to look back and say, did I leave SFU better than when I found it? And 6 months from today, I'm going to look back and say, is this year finishing stronger than it started? Because it's never the first impression that matters. It is always the last impression that lasts.
That's amazing. Listen, it's amazing. I get to see you under a different light now. I got the chance to see you as a coach and as an athletic director. Adeel, thank you so much for everything you do. Thank you for the relationships that you don't leave people hanging. Like, you hang on to your relationships. People always talk greatly about you, man. You're doing great. And now you got a chance to have an even bigger impact. So I appreciate you, my brother.
Appreciate you.
Thank you so much. And I can't wait to see what you're gonna do in your new situation. So
thank you, my brother. I appreciate it. Thank you for having me.